July 16th, 2025, meeting of the Cass County Public Library Board of Trustees to order. Please stand for the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's see. Lori, would you do roll call for us?
Becky Klein.
Here.
Dennis Minnick.
Here.
Diana Larson.
Here.
Diane Hahn.
Here.
Sherry Peters.
Here. And we welcome a new member tonight, Diane Hahn. Would you like to say a few words or introduce yourself?
Diane Hahn. I've been a Cass County resident my entire life. Taught school in Cass Midway 6 years, Sherwood Cass R8 for 23, retired, and now I raise cattle and mow a lot. So I'm glad to be joining in with the board.
Well, thank you. We're excited to be working with you. Okay, we had a revised agenda that was passed out that had the addition of some other executive session matters added to it. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I make a motion to approve the revised agenda as presented.
And I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The agenda is approved. Consent agenda, this is where we approve the minutes and the financial reports that we were given. Is there any discussion about consent agenda? If not, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Consent agenda approved. Do we have any public comments? Nope. Moving right along. Unfinished business. We now have a presentation from Michael Short from Stiefel. We're going to be talking, so we have our financial advisor, we have our bond counsel, and now we're ready for bond underwriters.
That's right.
Yeah.
We're gonna get to that. As Sherry mentioned, I'm Michael Short with Stiefel Nicholas, and I'm here with my colleague Connor Swanson. We are the financial advisors to the library district. Also with us, Rick McConnell from Kutek Rock, your bond counsel, and we have our intern, Maxwell Arnold, who is shadowing us this summer, and we're trying not to corrupt him too much or horsewhip him too much, but we're trying to teach him a few things along the way. So we're proud to be here tonight and to share with you where we're at, where we're going. Got a couple of decisions for you to make this evening. And I'm going to start out principally for your benefit, but go through a little bit of history about where we've been. This will be older hat for some of you, but we're going to reiterate a few things. We've got a capital financing presentation. Just quickly go through where we've been and where we are today. This all got started many months ago. When the directors decided that in an effort to provide the patrons of the district some of the promises that were made during the levy campaign of 2020, but also to utilize the additional approved levy funds in a fiscal responsible manner, we entered into some planning. We adopted capital management policies and financial management policies for the district. We made some recommendations that are currently in the process of being implemented. That was, first of all, that revenues do exist from the levy increase to support a financing without additional tax increases. And that has been worked now for many, many months, and we have focused on replacing this facility, getting you out of this facility, I should say, to build a Harrisonville branch and new headquarters. And that financing will be pursued through what we call a lease purchase financing. That's basically an annual appropriation pledge financing of the district, meaning that you pledge that every year you're going to annually appropriate the debt service payments that are necessary on the bonds that will be issued. It is contrasted to a general obligation financing, which the voters would have needed to approve. But since the voters had approved the levy, which contained within it recommendations for new construction, the decision was made to go this particular route. So that's what we're doing. On the next page is a wonderful little flow chart for your benefit that shows you kind of how the process works. You are the brown box, the issuer in the upper left-hand corner. The underwriter we will decide on tonight if you accept our recommendation. We are the financial advisors, so we kind of fit in between all of this, and we didn't put ourselves in the chart, but, you know, we're there. When the time comes to issue the bonds, you will actually issue those bonds to the underwriter, who then sells them in the capital market. The underwriter then transfers the bonds to the bondholders, transfers proceeds to a trustee, which you'll also decide this evening, and then over the course of the period of the bonds, you remit payments to the trustee, who in turn then remits them to the bondholders. So the monies are actually flowed through a trustee. There are limited financial institutions that have trust power, so your local bank doesn't have that. There's a few entities that do, and we do have a recommendation about that tonight, one that we've used a lot with various issuances. So we go on to the next page. The district hired Navigate and Clark and Interson to guide and manage the construction process. And as of your most recent update at the end of June, that was standing at about $8.5 million for the facility in Harrisonville. There is no tax increase associated with this financing. As we have shared with you and will reiterate again tonight, there are sufficient revenues coming in from the levy calculations to cash flow this financing with the revenues that you currently have. We are looking at a 25-year financing period that works best in the cash flow analysis, gives you flexibility, and is very common for facilities that have a useful life that is extended well beyond 25 years. As of just a few days ago, the staff estimates that you now have a capital reserve of over $4 million, so you have significantly grown that. You have other reserves that are invested, but we focus particularly on the capital reserve, like what you could spend on buildings, okay? You have some other operational reserves that are invested, but we're looking at really what you could spend on a building. So the question still remains, how much of that could you or should you allocate to this financing to reduce the borrowing? And we're gonna talk a little bit more about that in the next slide. It's possible for the district to take some of its cash and reduce the financing. And so that's something that we've addressed, and we've kind of settled on a model, and we're gonna wanna reiterate tonight that that's what you're still comfortable doing. And then our previous analysis did focus on about an $8.8 million project. We kept that for tonight. I mean, they say 8.5, we've got some cost of issuance in there, so we'll be refining numbers with the cooperation of the underwriter once we select them, and continuing to work towards that. But for right now, we didn't change that number, so we left that at 8.8, with the assumption that you're going to contribute $1 million in cash, and so you reduce the borrowing to 7.8. Going on to the next page, it has some pink highlighted columns. This is a restatement of those 8.8 financing opportunities. And we looked at 3 different scenarios once we sort of settled on this amount. The first one is all debt. So you issue $8.8 million in bonds. What the pink and red references is what that does to your capital fund balance each year. So that much has to come out of the capital fund balance as opposed to levy revenues. So just, we want you to see what the impact is. You see up in the column, there's $4,005,310. That's where you're at right now. And then you show how that whittles down if that's the option that you choose. In the center is the option that we've been discussing more generally for the last few months, and that's an $8.8 million financing. But you offset that with $1 million in cash, so your net finance 7.8. So you can see that the pink and the red is greatly reduced. Still some drawdown here in the first few years, which we knew would happen. But you have a very, very healthy capital reserve, so that's okay. And then if you were to go further on, you could put $2 million in, reduce the financing to 6.8, and the impact on your capital reserve is really minimized. But in previous discussions with the board, there was a preference to keep more of the cash because you do have some other projects that you want to look at, and to the extent those can be cash funded, that would be a preference. So we've focused on this center scenario, and that's where we're at presently, and we will want to get some general consensus from the board that that's still where you want to stay. And the reason is because once I contact these underwriters tomorrow and tell them they've been selected, we're going to start to want sizing this deal and running numbers that actually relate to the size of financing we're going to do. Now, you can, and many do, change this right up to the week before pricing the bonds, which is gonna be in late August. You could decide later on in August, you wanna do this slightly differently, and that's okay. But for now, we want a general direction. Then, I think finally, on this last page, the reason we wanted to share this with you, this is what we call sort of a levy cash flow analysis. Over on the far left-hand column, you will see that the 2025 assessed valuation is stated at 2.458, et cetera. You have just received notice of your assessed valuation for next year, and that just came in, and Lori shared that with us just a couple days ago, maybe last week. So we plugged this number in the 2026 column, it's 2.732. Now, and that's billion, by the way. I might have said billion, but that's billions. That's the before Board of Equalization number. So there will be some adjustments on that, okay? They're usually not huge, but there'll be some adjustments on that. That represents an 11% increase over the previous year. This county, as you well know, is growing. And you'll see that reflected in the credit report that we're gonna share with you in a little bit. The credit analyst noted that, and it's very positive for you. So then we apply a tax rate. Now, when Connor ran this today, we discussed this, and we went ahead and reduced the tax rate to 0.2281, because we think you're gonna have to reduce your tax rate because of your growth in assessed valuation. So, just to be on the conservative side, we went ahead and reduced that. Then we generate a sum from that in terms of collections, and we discount that to 98% because there's always some protested taxes, and so to be conservative, we use a 98% figure, which means that you'll have $6,108,621 collected. We've kept this little miscellaneous number, revenue number, static. You don't get much, and we could have disregarded it, but we kept it in there. So you got a total revenue number then in the middle of the page. Then we offset that with operational expenses, which came out of the budget, then with the projected growth factor. So we've kept operational expenses. That leaves a net available revenue column. Then we take the estimated cost to finance this $7.8 million project. We plug that in. And that's where you see your first little 3 columns of pink and red numbers over here, because that is the amount that the financing cost exceeds the available revenue, which means that's coming out of your capital fund balance. Okay, so it's slightly fungible, but we put it in this way so you can actually see what the impact is. And then in 2029, we start adding back in the savings from not having to rent this building anymore. So then that comes back in. So if you look at the fund balance column, you will see that we start with the $4 million figure that you have now. You spend a little bit of that, and then it starts to grow again at a pretty good rate. And actually, based upon what Lori has told us and told us during the rating call, it may grow more than that. But we just grow it based solely upon what is added from additional revenues, not from unspent budget proceeds, which has been your history. You don't spend all of your budget. And so you get to add that at the end. I'm going to pause there to see if there are questions. And again, this was done, I'm trying to give you some background here where we're at. And we are always available for questions outside this meeting. Anytime you ask Robin what you want to know, and we will get you an answer. Any questions from other members of the board on this recap?
I have one.
Yes, ma'am.
On this page,
Yes.
okay. If you go to the last section, the last 3 columns, if we put in $2 million instead of 1,
Mhm.
am I correct in saying that in 5 years, we would be back up to where we started?
Yep.
I was kind of noticing that myself.
Yep.
I'm kind of wondering.
Yep, you sure would.
So.
And these are all projections.
Right.
But, yeah, just like we plug in the actual numbers when we get them, like up here in the assessed valuation. But yeah, you're right, Diane. Mhm.
So then, over here,
What now?
it would take about, instead of 5 years, it would take between 15 and 16 years.
On which one are you looking at?
Okay,
here?
so then go to the,
Oh, go to the center?
To get the fund balance back to the
get the
4
fund,
million.
go back to this
Went
one
to
with
the
the
back
green.
page.
Oh,
With the
okay.
green, it would take about 15 or 16 years to
That-
get, is that correct in thinking?
If you're just looking at this, yes. But this goes back to my point that you never spend your budget. And so that's why your fund balance really has grown so much and is anticipated to grow quite a bit at the end of this fiscal year. So that's why I think it's a little bit more accurate to look at this page.
Okay.
Because we do this based upon actuals and not look, we assume you spend 100% of your operational expense budget. But you just don't. You've been spending like 87%, 88% of your budget. So you always end up with extra money. But Diana, you're right. If you solely look at this last page, it would take that many years to get back to that point. Yeah.
What percentage did you figure on this back page for the increase in our operational expenses
Did we
from
use
year
2 or
to year?
3? Do you remember?
Yeah, so the first year, so 2026, I used 4% just as a guess, and then after that, it's lining up with the growth of the tax rate. So
You
there's
kept
no
it the
variance
same.
between 1% and 2%.
We staggered the growth of tax rate based upon reassessment years or not.
Okay.
And as you can see, they're pretty low, given your historical growth, which has been larger than this. But we tied that, except in the first year, because we used the actual budget numbers.
Well, I just kind of look at that and go, I really hate to borrow $1 million when we have, another $1 million. So why not take that off the load up front? And like you talked about, any other projects that we're looking at, we'd still have $2 million. And, in 5 years, we're back up where we were anyway. And I don't think we've got anything real big planned for 5 years. So I don't know how everybody else feels, but I kind of like the idea of putting a little bit more of it up front, so.
Okay? You've got a Raymore branch I know that you've talked about, but I don't know how that factors in. And in reality, without probably a revenue source additionally, you can't do $8.5 million in Raymore anytime soon, that's for sure.
So if we did put in 2 million instead of 1, how, instead of borrowing for 25 years, would it knock it down to maybe 20?
We would look at that. If you tell us tonight that you want to look at putting $2 million in, then I would argue that it is feasible to do a 20-year financing. But we'll have to look at it.
Uh-huh.
We'll have to run the numbers.
Is it also feasible that we could do the 25 years, but at year 18 or 19 say, hey, we can pay this off early?
Because we can prepay it
And
anytime, correct?
Prepay.
we'll have a 10-year call on these bonds. That's pretty traditional unless at the time that they're marketed, the market will accept a 9-year call. In the last few years, we got some 8-year calls on bonds, but that was very dependent on market conditions. You gotta look at what investors will want
Right.
before you start paying an interest penalty to get that. And so let's say a 10-year call, you can, at 10 years then, if you've got some money saved up, you can either refund the bonds if the interest rates are attractive, or simply defease some of the bonds, meaning what I would suggest you do is you go out and you find the longest bond that's got the highest rate and you pay it off or pay part of it off. Yeah. So yes, you can prepay if revenues exceed what you thought they would, but you will have to wait until whatever the call time is. That doesn't mean you can't bank the money. You can
Right,
bank the
yeah.
money internally, invest it, escrow it, whatever, but you can't actually call the bonds.
Okay, and then we are looking at between 28 and 30, starting to look into 2028, 2030 into Raymore. And so in 2029, if we put 2 million down, we'd be 13,000 behind the 4.4 million, 5,000
Mm-hmm.
in it. I mean,
We'd be back almost to what we
Almost.
started with.
Almost.
You probably
Yeah.
have more
She's
than
looking
that
right here.
with increased revenues
yeah.
And saving,
and saving.
interest.
No, it didn't.
I would rather put more in upfront.
Are
2
you
million.
comfortable with?
Overstated.
Yeah, I think that's really
Oh, I
I've
see what you're
always
saying.
told me
With that.
that when you borrowed money, you put
Yeah.
as much as you could down
Right.
because it will cost you less in the
Yeah.
long run.
Exactly.
So,
Or should we go?
Okay, sorry.
I think we maybe would like to hear set it up on the 2 million downs. Kind of seems to be
Okay?
Probably don't need an official motion, just a
No,
discussion.
because
Yeah.
really, you don't
Right.
have to, until we actually come back to you in August with a bond resolution, you don't have to make that decision.
Okay.
So we can
Okay.
play with all kinds of things between now and then.
I'd say we're leaning towards 2 million then, and if we can shorten it to 20-year
Yeah.
maturity.
We
If
will
we can.
run that set of numbers. Okay,
I think that's agreeable.
very good. Are there any other questions about the update? Okay, well then the next thing I want to go through, some really good news from today. We participated in a rating process. I'm looking now at the documents that are titled by Moody's, okay? We participated in a rating process with Moody's Investor Services, the first time this district's ever been rated by an outside credit rating agency. There are 3, maybe 4, if you count this one that we don't ever use, in the country that do ratings like this for public jurisdictions. Moody's has a very good set of analysts who are familiar with library capital financings, and so we went to Moody's for the rating. Staff did a great job of providing information. We had a call last week where all 3, Lori and Lee and Robin, participated and answered questions that the credit analyst had about the district. It was a good call, and the information was provided, and they released their credit rating today for the district. And so the timing of this couldn't have been better. And the district was rated with their underlying credit rating of AA2, and that is very, very positive. You know, AAA is the highest rating, and hardly anybody has that. Few people have it, but hardly anybody has it. You almost got to be the state or the federal government, whether they deserve it or not, have a AAA rating. And then there's a couple of jurisdictions, I shouldn't see this. I guess they did, didn't they? So, and there's a few jurisdictions in Missouri that have it, but you gotta be pretty wealthy to have that. So at any rate, so then the next highest is AA1 in the AA category, and you are a AA2. Frankly, I thought this would come in at a AA3. I really did. And I was very pleasantly surprised when the analyst called yesterday to preview this with me. And so that's really reflected, you can read through this report, which I want you to read through this report. And really the credit opinion, the one entitled Credit Opinion is really what you want to read, because it has very good things to say about the district, about the finances of the district, about the profile of the districts, the demographic of the districts, the management of the districts. All of these things we've been working on for the last year and a half, this is where it all comes home, okay? It helps very much that the boundaries of the library district are coterminous with the boundaries of the county. And Moody's likes that, because they look at, you got a very healthy county, you got a very healthy library district. It's growing, things are happening, and so this is a very positive credit rating. I cannot emphasize strongly enough. This puts you right up there. The city of Kansas City has a AA2 credit rating, so you're at the same, if that, a recent library district that we did work for, they were AA3. And that's why I kind of thought maybe you would be too, but they go into 2 different counties and not the whole counties, and that made a big difference, I think. So what that means then for the bond issue itself will be rated AA3, 1 notch off of your underlying rating. And the reason they do that is because this is not a general obligation bond. It's not a full faith and credit of the district. It is an annual appropriation credit. So there's always that risk that some future board could fail to appropriate the debt service payment. So that is a risk, and because of that risk, they notch it off 1 rating from your underlying rating. So this is a very positive story. I encourage you to look at this. If you have questions, ask the staff, and we're happy to get answers. Of interest is on the second page under key indicators, they provide various data, figures from 2020 forward to 2024 about the county and, or the district and the county for that matter. And it's again, very, very positive. So we were very pleased to see this. You should be very pleased to see this. This is a point of pride for your district. It really is. And it's a point of pride for your staff and how they manage your finances and how they manage this district. So happy to answer questions about that, if you have any. I mean, it really doesn't get much better than this. I mean, it really, being in the position you're in. All right, that is the update. Now I'm going to go to our recommendation about bond underwriter. As I mentioned, and for your benefit, we're the financial advisor. And we are a broker-dealer, and we underwrite a lot of bonds, but you can only be one or the other when you work for a district. And so we are the district's financial advisor. So we, on the district's behalf, working with Robin and staff, issued a request for proposals for bond underwriting services on June the 23rd. And we've got a memo here that outlines this for you. We had issued that to 29 qualified firms. I knew a bunch of them wouldn't respond, but we have a big list, and so we sent it out. We had responses from 6 firms, which is a good response rate. And one firm, a 7th firm, simply said, we just don't have time right now. And I know them quite well, and they just said, we just don't have time right now. I said, okay, then I'm not gonna get a response from you. Of those 6, 4 were really meritorious, okay? There were 2 that we kind of discounted after we reviewed them for various reasons. And we have a score sheet that we attach to the back of this. This one's just blank for you to see how we went about this. The 3 of us, Maxwell, Connor, and myself, reviewed these based upon how well they responded to the RFP, what we know about these firms, and equally what we know about the banking personnel they would assign to this transaction, because there are some you have greater confidence in than others. And so we factor that in. So that's kind of subjective on our part. After having reviewed these, we want to make a recommendation that you retain the firm of Raymond James and Associates as the bond underwriter for this transaction. And we've listed out the criteria that we felt were important. Raymond James is a large brokerage firm. We see them all the time. We compete with them all the time, frankly, in the top 3 or 4 rankings nationally. And they have a wide distribution network, and we were looking for that. We want to make sure that these bonds are offered out to a wide range of potential investors. They have quite a bit of experience with certificates of participation, the lease purchase financing structure that we're using for your financing. And that's important because these aren't general obligation bonds, and they're not revenue bonds. The broker-dealer needs to be able to explain to their salespeople, and their salespeople need to be able to adequately explain to the buying public the nature of a lease purchase financing, and some do a better job than that than others, and we measure that by how many deals like that they do. They do a lot of these COPS deals, as we call them, so we have confidence that they know how to sell them. We know the bankers that are proposed, all 3 of them. We've known them for years, and they're capable, and they're good to work with, and they're flexible to work with. So they are people that we feel would be a good fit for the district in terms of personality and working with them. They've got a strong presence in this state and in the Kansas City area. They've got some offices here in the district, so the brokerage offices, but those are the brokers that'll be, reaching out to and selling bonds. Their fee was competitive. It was not the lowest fee, I will tell you that, but fee was not our primary consideration. One of the firms that had the lowest fee, frankly, we threw out pretty early on, okay? And it wasn't necessarily because of the fee, they just didn't do a very good response, and they don't have a lot of experience in what we need. And so Raymond James' fee was competitive and right in line there really with everyone else's. And it's, I want to say it was like $475 a bond or something like that, which is a good rate. And one of the benefits of doing this process is to get those underwriters' fees down to about that level, okay? They've got some experience here in the county. They worked with Cass County and the West Peculiar Fire Protection District, and in the region with the Kansas City Public Library Building Corporation. So we think they'll do a good job for you, and we can recommend them without hesitation. So you will be reviewing here a resolution from Mr. McConnell that he prepared as your bond counsel, which takes the necessary step to both hire them as your underwriter and also name as trustee BOKF Financial, which is Bank of Oklahoma Financial Corporation, operating locally here as Bank of Kansas City. We use them as a trustee a lot on library issues and other issues. Their trust representatives know how to do the work. They know how to set up the accounts. Their fees are very, very minimal too. I mean, we're talking maybe $3,000 at closing, and then every year, Robin and Lori Lee, you'll have to budget in like $1,500 or something as an annual cost every year that the bonds are outstanding, so.
Who are they locally again?
Bank of Kansas City is what you'll see
Okay.
referenced, but you also see BOK Financial, BOKF. So in sum, that is our report and our recommendation, and we're happy to answer. My goal was to only take 30 minutes, and I didn't. So we're happy to answer questions that you may have, and then I believe we would need the one action item we do need is a motion to approve that resolution that Mr. McConnell sent. Rick, you want to add to that anything?
No, I think, there's a big long blank in section 1, so we would put Raymond James' name in, if that was your pleasure. And this is just, I think Robin appropriately said, I think we need sort of a formal step here, not overly so, not overly lengthy, but just something that we can put in the district's record to show, we made those choices. So, I mean, for my part, the 2 recommendations that they made, I think are great and will do very well for you.
That's what I was gonna ask, if you were comfortable with them too, Rick.
100%. My wife works at BOKF, I gotta.
Well, I don't know. Yeah.
She did not give me the fee
No, she
proposal.
did
I do
not.
not interact with her on these matters.
No. But it-
She's pretty high up. Yeah,
She'll tell you.
she'll tell you.
But I think, I think the last district, Michael, that you mentioned, they did that.
Yep.
Their deal to library district. I think that they are very user-friendly, and I think that's a huge thing for, staff and pulling funds down and doing investments and that sort of thing. So.
Do we have any other questions?
I make a motion that we approve resolution number 071625 for the selection of an underwriter and trustee.
Is there a second?
Second.
I assume we should do a roll call vote on this one, Lori.
Diane Hahn,
Yes.
Dennis Mooney,
Yes.
Diane Larson.
Yes.
Becky Klein.
Yes.
Sharon Peters.
Yes. Motion passes.
And one quick thing, just to give you where we go from here, very quickly. I did not print out the calendar for each of you because there are references to real estate on here, and and that's not a public matter yet, I don't think. So, but on our calendar, in terms of financing, going forward, in the next couple of weeks, staff will have what we call a due diligence call with the underwriter that you just selected. It's part of their regulatory process where they'll ask some questions. And then we will have a next meeting with you on August the 20th, and that's where we anticipate that we'll bring the bond resolution to you, assuming that everything is ready, and I think it will be, and assuming the market is right. Now, you don't have to issue these bonds in August, okay? So if the market looks funny in any way, and it has in the last couple, 3 months for various reasons, or if we think there really might be a possibility of a rate adjustment that's beneficial, we may punt this to September, because it'll all be an analysis of rate risk, okay? So we may be coming back to you, our plan is to come back to you on August the 20th, but don't be surprised if we might say, let's do this in September. But assuming we go ahead in August, then we will price those bonds the week of August the 26th with the underwriter. Okay, so, and that's when they'll sell them. And then we would close the deal on September 30th, and that's when monies will be deposited with the trustee, and you can start utilizing them for your project. Okay, that's a calendar update. We don't have anything else, so that's it. We appreciate your confidence, we appreciate your time, and unless you need us, I think we'll scoot out of here.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, all right. Very nice to have met you.
Thank you.
If you have any questions, you just let Robin know, and she knows how to get a hold of us.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks for your work.
Absolutely, our pleasure.
They will let them exit, because our new business versus a presentation from Lindsay. Do you need us to shuffle around?
Me just sitting here? Oh, yeah, whatever works.
Do we need to?
They got me turned, maybe.
It's turned on. Yeah. It takes a
Thought I
second
heard.
to understand. The
Which
light
is
is
it?
blinking, so it should be moving.
Which This is our annual presentation on our roles and responsibilities, which is always a good reminder.
So yes, as it was just said, I'm Lindsay Polish. I serve as general counsel for the library, and we have now annually done a little bit of a roles and responsibilities, the Sunshine Law, just a good check-in reminder kind of presentation, and that's what we're here for tonight. So first, the library is a political subdivision of the state. You may think that that's just cities or counties, but the library is its own political subdivision as well. That's why it has a property tax that governs, that funds the library, that is allowed by Chapter 182 RSMO. If you are a Googler, just be aware that there are different types of library districts out there. So not all of those statutes in 182 apply to the county library. They apply to city libraries and other things as well. The library is governed by a board of trustees, you all. You all act as the governing body of the library. In statute, the board of trustees makes and adopts bylaws, rules, and regulations of their own, which we do, we have bylaws, for their own guidance as may be expedient, not inconsistent with the law, for the government of the library. The board of trustees governs the library generally, the big picture, the policy items of the library. That's a little bit different compared to the library director, who works in the day-to-day aspect of the library, everything else, the administration of the library. The difference there is the governance of the library generally, the policy, and the administration of the library, the day-to-day, making sure that everybody, well, I'm sure Robin doesn't make sure that everybody's here every day, everybody, all the supervisors do that as well, but just the day-to-day options of what's going on in the library. This slide discusses Dillon's rule, and this really comes up more with cities, but it's a very good reminder for the library as well, that we only have the powers as prescribed in statute. We have those powers plus extras, because of course the statutes don't say you're allowed to have DVDs to rent out to people, you're allowed to have programming items, you're allowed to have a bookmobile. Of course, the statutes don't say that. If only they were updated that often, that would be great for us. But they don't say that. They say that you can have a library. So all of those other options under the library, what it can do, are all its implied powers. Anything, we say anything that's fair and reasonable, that's what we think are library powers. The role of the governing body, these are articles from the bylaws of the library, and these further show the difference between the governing body and the administration of the library. Article 8 of the bylaws states that the board has the responsibility of making and directing the policy of the library in accordance with the statutes of the state of Missouri. So like I just said, we have specific things in the statutes that we are required to do, that we have the option to do. But it's also, there's all these other things that we can also do. Those still have to be in compliance with the statutes of the state of Missouri. The making and the directing of the policy of the library is the much bigger picture items like we've talked about in the last few meetings, the strategic plan, the COP policy, I'm blanking, the capital improvements plan, having another Harrisonville branch. Those are the big policy items of the library, and that's what the governing body has its duties in. The bylaws also state that the responsibilities include promotion of library interests generally, securing of adequate funds to carry on library services. You'll see in September the big one is setting the property tax levy every 2 years when those come down. So that is the big one with the funds there. And then also the administration and approval of library funds and property. And again, that's the budget and things like having new buildings and new properties. The bylaws also specify the duties of the library director, and the board does select the library director. Oh, I didn't mention the board, as you all know, are appointed by the county commission, and then you all appoint the library director. And the library director is the administrative officer under the direction and review of the board. The library director is directly responsible. The library director is directly responsible for the employment of the staff and for operation of the libraries within the budget. We set the budget, but then we have abilities to work within that budget throughout the year, and daily operation of the library, and of course, other duties as assigned. Next, we'll talk a little bit, just basic procedural rules. To be able to have a meeting, we do have to give notice, and I'll get into the sunshine law in just a moment. But we have to have notice, and we have to have a quorum of the Board of Trustees. The Board of Trustees acts only as a quorum of its body. If there were only 2 of you here tonight, we could not hold this meeting. We could sit here and chat all we wanted, but that would not be a Board of Trustees meeting. Also, in those meetings, the presiding officer controls. The agenda is set, approved, and followed, as we just saw. When there are public comments, those are usually limited to specific times. This meeting of the Board of Trustees is a business meeting, and of course, we have the opportunity to give public comments, but that's not a First Amendment right to come to a public meeting and give comments. It is your right under the Sunshine Law to observe the meeting, but it is not a constitutional right to actually speak at the meeting. And because of that, we are able to say, this is the business meeting, and we will give you an opportunity to speak, but you can't take over a whole meeting. We have to get through our items and through our agenda still here. And then, of course, just basic good governance is acting on motions that are brought forward and seconded so that everybody knows what the actual motion is, and that we're able to move forward on business. So the Sunshine Law is Chapter 610 RSMO. And it applies to, you may think just cities, but it applies to political subdivisions of the state. It applies to public records, public meetings, and public business. We are required to notice up all meetings 24 hours in advance, and that includes the agenda, not just the notice that we will have the meeting, but also the tentative agenda. There is a little bit of a gray area-ish here. The Sunshine Law requires the tentative agenda to be posted 24 hours in advance. That doesn't mean the final agenda. And that is a question. There's a case right now in the Western District that's kind of parsing through that, and I'm really excited to see what they say on that. But we do have to give 24 hours notice. The other thing on the Sunshine is that, yes, everything is public, everything is defaulted to public records, public meetings, but there are specific allowances to have closed session meetings, and we'll hit a few of those in just a moment. As far as public records go, again, those are all defaulted to public, but there are some reasons that we can close them. We do have to respond to public records requests within 3 days. That doesn't necessarily mean providing all of the records. It might take a while to search through those records and figure out what we need to do, but we have to acknowledge that request. And that's also something that Robin and her staff do as administrative. You know, you guys don't see those Sunshine requests as the governing body. These are the most commonly used Sunshine Law exceptions. Legal actions, litigation, privileged communications with attorneys, of course, is able to be closed. And I should mention, these are all able to be closed. We can open them if necessary, if the board would vote to, but they are all options for us to close them. Real estate transactions, before they are completed, are closed records. Hiring, firing, disciplining, and promotion of personnel, as well as individually identifiable personnel records, are all closed records. We don't really need to have people being requested personnel files and things like that, and that's the idea behind that one, is that we are able to have those discussions in closed session without needing to have all of that hashed out in public. The other big one is negotiated contracts. Those are all closed until they're actually executed, and that's also where the real estate transaction comes in, is that while it's being negotiated, while maybe an appraisal is outstanding or something like that, those are all closed records, but once they are executed, those are open contracts that are able to be requested. The other one is sealed bids, is also a common one that is also closed. For closing meetings and for voting procedures while in closed sessions, you'll notice on the agenda today, we do have 2 items for closed session. We do have to specify the reasons why we're going into closed session, and those also have to be noticed up 24 hours in advance. So it's very common to list a couple of reasons to go into closed session on every agenda, just in case something comes up. Personnel is sometimes one of those things that just kind of comes up, and if we're not noticed up for it, we can't go into closed session for it. So that has to be listed on the agenda. There also has to be a motion to go into closed session for that specific reason. So we'll notice it tonight too, but when we do make a motion to go into closed session, it will be specifically as to those 2 items. Of course, we have to stay on topic. Just because we're in closed session doesn't mean we can talk about whatever we want then. We have to stay on that closed session topic. And it is okay to have multiple items on there too. Everything regarding closed sessions are roll call votes. The vote to go into closed session, any votes that are taken in closed session, and even the vote to go out of closed session. We do keep basic minutes, just like public open meetings. They don't necessarily have to be transcripts of the meeting, but just basic minutes. And then there is a motion to go out of closed session, which goes back to the open session, and then there has to be a motion to close, or to, I should say, adjourn the open session. And then there is opportunity to put reportable actions on the record. There might be something where a contract is voted on or discussed in the closed session, and then we're immediately ready to announce that that contract has been signed and open. So that's also possible. Libraries have their own little section of a closed record, and that is that any record that identifies a person as having requested, used, or borrowed library materials, and all records identifying the names of library users are closed records. The idea from that comes, we don't need people requesting lists of things that people have requested and used from the library. This can be a very large amount of records, especially in today's day and age. There's just, records are created all of the time. So it's just anything that identifies a specific person as having requested that specific item. And of course, library material is any library property that somebody can use. So the DVDs, CDs, if there's, I think the library has a, like experience library, different kinds of things to check out, things like that. Those are all library materials. And we can only provide those records in response to written requests from that person, or if there is a need for it, a court order. So if somebody just requests what you've requested from the library this year, that's not going to be a closed record. The last thing that I want to hit on that I don't think I have a slide on, yes, is that I mentioned the library board of trustees acts as a board, a full board of a quorum of a majority of the board of trustees. The question comes up a lot is what is a meeting? What does that mean? That means a quorum of the board of trustees discussing board business. So you could run into each other at the grocery store and there's 2 of you and you talk about what's coming up on the next agenda. That's not a meeting. There's only 2 of you, that's not a quorum. But then a third one comes in and says, hey, did you see that too? That's a meeting. Technically, that's a meeting that hasn't been noticed up, and that's in violation of the Sunshine Law. So those things are just easy, especially in the community. It just kind of happens on accident. But it's when there's a quorum of the board of trustees discussing library business. Now, 3 of you could all get together and talk about, the new deal at Costco. That's not library business. That's totally fine. But that also overplays into electronic records. So you can't all 3 meet in person without that being noticed up. But you also couldn't call 3 people on the phone and discuss library business and not notice that as a public meeting. And that applies also the same way to email records. And emails are easy thing to just accidentally, CC somebody or something like that. But again, if there's a quorum of the board of trustees talking public business, that would be a violation of the Sunshine Law. So everything just has to be noticed up to be able to have that meeting is the number one thing, is 24 hours notice and an agenda. So that's quick review of roles and responsibilities. Any questions, concerns?
So one of us should not, I should not send an email out to all of the other members.
So that's a good question, and there's a little bit of a distinction here between discussion of public business and just information. So I believe, I guess I don't actually know, but a lot of my clients send out the agenda to all members of the Board of Aldermen or the Board of Trustees. That's okay, because that's just information going out. It would be the discussion about the public business, if that were to occur with a quorum, is the concern. Does that answer your question?
I think so.
Yeah.
But one-on-one,
Correct.
be all right.
That would be okay. That would be okay. And there's a little bit of a distinction there too. The Sunshine Law also frowns upon trying to get around it. It acts as we want to be transparent and open. So there is also a concept called serial meetings, where you also couldn't go towards, for example, a person could not go to each different Board of Trustee member, ask, how are you gonna vote on this item?
Mhm.
So-and-so told me they're gonna vote this way. How are you gonna vote on this item? So-and-so told me they're gonna vote that way. That would be a serial meeting that is intended to discuss, you're intending to understand what everybody is going to do and say in that meeting. That would also be a violation of the Sunshine Law.
Our best choice is just to send our questions or comments to Robin and then let her decide how others need to know, or
Well,
what do you think there?
Well, the best opportunity for public discussion would be a public meeting.
Right.
Is really what it is. That's the intent there, is that all the public business is discussed
Save it till
above
then.
board, yes. But of course, if there's, a question, hey, why isn't this policy on the agenda? I thought we were going to be talking about this. That's a question that could definitely go to Robin, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what if
And, I just wanted to follow up too, Robin is not a member of the Board of Trustees. So talking to, if you CC Robin and Lee on an email, that's not 3 members of the Board of
No.
Trustees, so that's perfectly fine.
What if we're discussing something via email that would be subject to a closed session?
Well, it still has to be noticed up.
Okay.
So as long as and I should say, you can technically have a meeting via email, but it has to be noticed up, is what it is. It's that meeting without it being noticed up is the problem. So we could have Zoom meetings, that happens sometimes in the winter months when travel is tough. That's perfectly fine, it just has to be noticed up 24 hours in advance.
Okay.
Our notices for our meetings are just posted here at the library.
Yes, that's okay, and they're online also, and that's just better, communication for the public. That's how I get it, so I appreciate that. But yes, they need to be posted at the location of where the meeting is. Yeah. Any other questions, concerns? Sunshine Law can be tricky sometimes, but it's once you kind of get your head around, it's just about transparency and being, a member of the public community, that really it kind of it starts to come together. So.
Do we only post this building, or do all the branches have a post also?
Yes.
Okay, good,
All the branches do.
good.
And we think, you can always go above and beyond the Sunshine Law, it's just that we can't go underneath the requirements.
Okay. Thank you, Lindsay.
Yes, anytime.
Okay, lights back up. Oh, there we go, everyone. We will move on to our mid-year budget review with Robin.
Yes, so I did write out a narrative for you in your packet, but just some major points. As you can see, we've spent about 40% of the total annual budget through June. And that's fantastic. As you saw, our personnel costs are a little under budget for what we would expect this time of year, but we've had open positions. And some folks didn't accept the benefits that they were entitled to this year. And we also made that pivot to not add custodial staff, which was originally planned for this year. When we brought Ian on, we kind of looked at like a cost analysis of that, projected out for several years, and we think right now it was best to just go with a better cleaning service, and so. The technology costs, like that budget line's lower, because the big project we had this year, which is done now, is computer upgrades for all the staff. And we were able to come in under budget for that because we used the state procurement contract. Most of the expenses in that automation tab, you'll see, haven't hit yet. So that's another reason. Some of those will be coming through here in the next couple of months. And that's for things like our membership in the Evergreen Consortium and Mow to Go for digital items. Utilities are pretty much mostly on track. I noted in there, like our water bill, for some reason, the NRC doesn't come like at a regular interval, and so we could go many months without paying that, and then all of a sudden we get one that we have to pay, so that can kind of throw that line off a little bit. Where I would expect us to be on programming and outreach, and of course this year some of these costs were offset by foundation support for the summer library program that they were all able to take advantage of. And then of course, as you've seen from our financials that we get monthly, our revenue from the tax levies on track. We've got the majority of what we were projected to have for that, so there's no concerns there. Does anyone have any questions?
No questions? We'll move on to the update on the strategic plan then.
Okay, and that one also, you have a pretty in-depth narrative there, kind of showing you what are, in most cases, what our baseline for 2023 is, and there, some of them might have 2024, and then where we are at in the middle of the year here in 2025. Now, just a reminder, this goes from, this was adopted in 2023, goes all the way till the end of 2026. These goals are where we want to be by the end of 2026. So, some of the bigger things on that one, active card holders, that's one of those first numbers that you get. That's even below baseline, but I don't think that number's accurate right now. I think over time, as the program that's used to manage that, it should be self-correcting right now that we have that fixed. It wasn't counting those digital users as active users, and that we have. I mean, you've seen the circulation. We've got a lot of folks that are using our digital, so I think that's self-correcting. But and yeah, as far as circulation, our physical checkouts are kind of I don't ever see those going in an upward trajectory. I see them either staying probably pretty level or dipping a little bit, but you'll see with the digital content that's just going to keep going up. Genealogy, we've made a huge strides in getting some items digitized, since now that we have the help of the volunteers from Family Search. And they're able to come in and spend dedicated time to going through. I think the biggest labor piece of that is going through each item that we have and determining whether or not it's eligible to be scanned, because there is like a rubric for that. So they help us with that, and we appreciate it. We're talking on how to use our existing event system to help us track their program partnerships and focusing on those programming areas that we outlined in the strategic plan edit. So, and we'll probably just be tweaking that the whole rest of the year, trying to make sure that we get that. I would like to make sure that that reporting is streamlined in such a way that it's not a burden on the branch staff to do, and it just becomes kind of second nature to go in and throw the statistics that they were already collecting and just be able to categorize it pretty easily. I think we've made huge progress on goal 4 with the capital improvement plan adoption, and then all the stuff that we've been working on year to date with the Drexel and annex renovations and getting the outreach van purchased. We're doing that restructure in facilities and separating it out of IT. And then of course that new van is helping us with the outreach, kind of, adding in that lobby stop option that we're kind of able to reach some of the seniors in some of the facilities that we weren't able to reach bringing the bookmobile by because they wouldn't be able to get out there to it, or it's just didn't work as well for them, so. But yeah, that's pretty much kind of some of the key points on the strategic plan progress.
Yeah, I read somewhere, and I don't remember, it was talking about Drexel. How long do we think it'll have to be closed for renovation?
2 weeks is
Oh,
what
that's-
we're planning
okay.
for.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
We're drawing up a schedule of who will be where, when, and hope everything goes according to that schedule.
That's what I saw somewhere in here, they were gonna cover it with the bookmobile, and
Yeah,
you had plans.
but we will tear the carpet up at some point and find out what's underneath it, so.
So we will keep, big crack, we'll keep our fingers crossed for 2 weeks then.
Right.
Any other questions? No? Thank you, Robin.
Mhm.
Okay. Next item, a new business, is election of board officers. Because our last president is no longer on the board, so I am acting as vice president, so we will begin with nominations for president.
I'd like to nominate Becky for president.
I second that nomination.
Ms. Becky, do you accept that nomination?
Yes.
Are there any other nominations? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ms. Becky's our new president. Want me to continue with officers, you want to take over?
What do we want to do?
I'll finish officers.
You
How's-
finish
I'll finish
officers.
officers.
You're doing well.
Oh, thank you, thank you. It's all that old 4-H training.
Yeah.
So, we need a nomination for vice president.
I nominate Diana Larson.
Is there a second?
Second.
Do you accept the nomination?
I do.
Any other nominations? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Congratulations. Oh, no, you don't count. You can't vote against
You can't
yourself.
vote.
Yeah. Congratulations, Diana. Nominations for treasurer.
I nominate Sherry Peters.
Is there a second?
Second.
I will accept that nomination. Any other nominations? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? There we go. We have our new slate of officers.
We have policy revisions to approve tonight.
Let you take over the fun part.
Yes. Pat, are there things you want to go over specifically with us? I read all the red and blue last night and today.
Read the red and blue, that should tell it all.
That should tell it all. Employment categories and classifications. Any questions for Pat on policy 401?
I think these are all pretty clear cut.
Right. 402, introductory period for new hires. It's now just a few months, it's not 6 months primarily, right?
Right, we're doing a mentor program.
Yes.
We've got the mentor program going started, so there's really no need for that formal evaluation again.
Right.
Because we don't do 6-month raises anymore. When we did that compensation study, that kind of went right away side
Right.
at that time. So there's really no need to do that probationary period as such as
Okay.
it was.
Policy 403 primarily renames substitutes to part-time flex library assistants and then lays out the parameters of it. Any questions on that? But they should get 8 hours a month, right?
Yes. Yes.
And the branch manager needs to make sure that each person's, that they could have up to how many hours a month?
As long as they have less than 950 a year.
Okay, did I see that in here?
No, it's not in there, per se. This is just basically on a monthly basis of what we want them to work, the minimum
Right,
of what we want them to work.
right.
But we keep them, around that 950 mark. That way it kind of spreads it out among all of the part-time people.
Right. And this is where many of our employees come in on the entry level in some ways, isn't it sometimes?
Yeah, all of our most recent part-time people have been the 0 to 30-hour part-time
Okay,
It just gives
position.
it that flexibility of, we don't need them this week, we don't need them.
right.
So I assume this is a pretty big pool of people. Didn't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, how
It's our
many?
largest group,
Yeah.
that group is our largest group of people, and it's been working out real well. Where, some of the branches used to have a problem having subs work, this 0 to 30 has really taken care of that. I had one branch I used to get a call almost every day. It seemed like now I've gotten 0 calls for last 6 months.
Because that director calls their list directly.
Excuse me?
So if a director needs to call somebody, they call them directly. And-
Yes, it's just, I mean, because they have their own people to use, they have their own people that have that flexibility of the 0 to 30. As opposed to a sub, which is always that flexible, I guess I should say.
Okay. Volunteers, just clarifies all that. About how many volunteers do we have?
It just depends on the branch. NRC has the most
Okay.
of them that would be here in Pleasant Hill. You've got Archie, that has like 1, 2, Drexel has none. They have 1. And then Garden City has a couple, but the 3 bigger branches have the most.
Okay. Access to employee records. Mainly taking out business office and putting in human resources department, updating that. Any questions there? Personal data changes, 406. Puts the responsibility on the employee. Job descriptions. Okay, where are the job descriptions kept, in HR?
Job descriptions are kept in each person's file.
Okay,
I have a master, obviously.
right,
A digital master. Every year, each employee will sign their job description.
okay,
So I'll take out the old one, put in the new one. So
Okay.
it's kept in their file.
okay. And then 409, travel and mileage.
That was impressive.
It lays out, you know,
So detailed.
you have to be.
Yeah, it does.
This is for dealing with a lot of things, a lot of laws.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Am I going too fast? Can we do them all as a block? Is that all right? So I'll entertain a motion for policy revisions.
I move that we adopt policies 401, 402, 403, 404, 405, 406, 408, and 409 as presented to us.
All right?
I'll second.
Okay, we'll let Diane Hahn
seconds,
second
yes.
that. Lori, would you do a roll call, please?
Diane Hahn,
Yes.
Becky Klein,
Yes?
Diane Larson,
Yes?
Terry Peters.
Yes?
Dennis Minnick.
Yes.
Okay. We'll move on to director's reports, staff positions.
Sure. The one big hire we did last month was, Scott Pagel has moved from our youth services coordinator position to the manager of the Pleasant Hill branch, which has been fun. He started there this week, which means we've got 2 current openings. His former position, the youth services coordinator, and a collection management assistant position, which will be another of those 0 to 30 part-time hour positions within that job description. And Pat's working on, I think, scheduling those interviews currently. Basically, we're in July, and branches are focused on getting to the end of the summer learning program. They're not excited for it to end, but seeing that wrap up in an exciting way. As Robin mentioned, the family search digitization project has been going really well, and we've added like 20 books a month, and that seems to be building once everybody involved figures out our collection, where things are, and what what hasn't been digitized in that yet, so that should keep going as long as we have, as long as we can keep some of those partners from Family Search. We should officially be listed now on the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services map as official cooling centers. That was something that we had talked about, but actually Sarah Check at the Health Department had asked if we could do that, and that's something that we're basically already doing already, so it's nice to make it official. Oh, and the Harrisonville Elks Lodge was nice enough to donate some of their fishing poles and tackle boxes that they had left over from a youth fishing derby last month, and we're in the process, Sarah Llewellyn is in the process of having those put into the Exploration Library collection so that you can check out 1, 2, 4 fishing poles and go fishing with them. So that was very nice of them.
How many poles do we have?
Oh, boy. A lot.
Couple dozen.
I'm just thinking, where are we
Yeah.
storing those?
But
And
we're
I
gonna,
can't-
I'm not gonna put them all out
No, I
for
should be-
CERC, but we'll
Yeah.
have backups.
They'll
I
come in
guess.
a
Right, yeah.
case, and she's keeping some for replacements,
Yeah,
because
if you're
obviously
interested,
there
pull
will
this,
be,
yeah.
there will be loss. That's,
They-
and that's
They won't
okay.
return, right?
Some of them won't, and that's fine. So, yeah, that's all I've got.
Anything more on branch activity, or Robin, your director report?
Yeah, just a few things. Ian is preparing a bid request to put out for electric strike systems. That was part of the plan for capital improvement at all of our locations, and right now we'd like to try to get that down at Drexel as part of that renovation and the annex. And we might need to be doing it at Archie too. There exists one, but we got notification that ADT will not support the hardware that's currently installed after the end of this year. So we're kind of looking at seeing about standardizing everything across all the locations anyway, but he's gonna put that, he's working on that and getting that put out. As you hopefully noted in your report, the outreach van wrap is scheduled for August 11th, and so it should look like the little baby brother of the bookmobile, basically. Just to keep that branding intact. Our summer library program participation, I just wanted to point out again, while we're steady from last year's participation across all age groups, is pretty comparable. The logging of the activities is actually increased a lot. It's practically doubled over this time last year. So I don't know if just more folks are interested in doing the different activities, and it's stuff like, visit a branch that's different from your home branch, or go check out an item from the peculiar kiosk, do some things to help these statistics. But people seem to be into it, so that's pretty cool to see that. And then also just that the design development meetings for the new Harrisonville/admin building, they're well underway. We had one last week. And basically all of the due diligence that was outlined in the sales contract for the Locust Terrace property is done, so we've got that closing set for August 18th. And that's what I have.
CCIC update? Dennis?
One item that, and everybody may be aware of this, or at least know part of it, but we probably will have to adjust the budget some. The insurance took a massive rate increase. I think it went from like 7,000 to 30,000.
32.
So, based on, our percentage deal or whatever, it's just fair to keep in mind that there's probably going to have to be a pretty healthy adjustment there. How long that lasts or whatever, we don't know, but that's about the main thing.
The Cass County Public Library Foundation met Monday night, and Scott reported back. He did such a great job of purchasing power or whatever with our money that he was able to make sure that each child got 2 books to take home rather than 1 book.
The reward books?
The reward books, yes. And he still had a little bit of money left over evidently and such. And we're looking for a place to have the used book sale. We're not having much luck in the northern part of the district. We'd like to do it in October. Very latest would be the first weekend of November. And we have not heard back from our previous person. So we're got our eyes open looking for other locations.
What kind of location do you like to have?
We need we usually use an old storefront. All we need is electricity. We don't need water. We've used one within the area near the NRC. And the building manager's not responding to us, so we're gonna keep working on it. So, that's about it. Other comments, trustees?
How long do you need it for?
We needed about 2.5 weeks, a week and a half or so before, and a few days afterwards to clean up. Our used book sales for the foundation have brought in anywhere from 2,000 to 5,000 or 6,000. It just depends upon the quality and the quantity of the books that we have. We offer it to teachers to come in and fill a grocery bag full free, especially on the last day. They can pretty much take whatever they want. And we do it every 2 years. So,
So you know the storefront at Pleasant Hill, but I'll tell you about it later.
okay.
Yeah, as soon as you know, staff have asked, should we start collecting things yet? And we've said, not quite yet.
Not
So-
quite yet. Yeah. And we have a very short window because people will drop books off at the library, and the library has no place to store them for us. And so we have to go around and collect them all, or the courier service will help us out somewhat. So we really need that storefront a couple of weeks in advance. And people have called me, when's the book sale? I got books I want to give away. And I can't do it yet. Carla, our foundation president, is there on the back row, and she and I have been working together on this the last few months and such, so. Any other trustee comments? Anything? Then I will entertain motion to go into executive session.
I move that we go into executive session for legal pursuant to Missouri Revised Statute 610.021.1 and personnel, Missouri Revised Statute 610.021.3.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dennis. Roll call, please, Lori?
Becky Klein?
Yes?
Terry Peters?
Yes.
Dennis Minnick?
Yes.
Diana Larson?
Yes.
Diane Hahn?
Yes.
We will adjourn to a recess.